Today we're having a little bit of a chaotic walk. Our normal morning routine involves getting up and going in the backyard, and I'll throw the ball for Gidget for a while so she can burn some energy off. And today Grandpa was mowing, so we did not get to do that, so we came to the cemetery. So all chaos could ensue between everybody having to take their morning the morning poop and having enough bags, and it's been fun. And since we didn't have any energy burn off before we got here, we're extra sporadic and all over the place. So we have a little less than a half mile in on our journey so far. I really wanted to come here today to kind of do another one of these. I've been thinking about some stuff lately that's what I kind of wanted to throw out there, I guess. Back when I started doing these videos, I mentioned a couple days ago that, or in the last video, I think that, it wasn't really the sake of the thing wasn't to be good at this point or anything. I don't even know what that would look like, but I've been kind of thinking about it, and I kind of had these messages. I don't know if I'm getting them in my sleep or if it's something that, I hear something on like one of the tarot videos or whatever that I watch, and it triggers my mind to just kind of keep going. But I was thinking, one of the messages I got after I started back in the fall, even after I deleted everything I put on YouTube and then took a break from it, like I got the sense that it was still very much working for what the actual purpose of it is. Even though I didn't have anything up at the time, it felt like it still had something that it was doing. And I know it did for me, because on my end, the fact that I'd done it at all took away from that that ongoing fear and anxiety about putting myself out there in any capacity. And that's changed how I even view myself in a huge way. But I spend a lot of time, I always thought of it as daydreaming, but I don't think it is actually just that. Because I've always just thought of myself as a daydreamer. But I feel like the stuff that I have done, like throughout my entire life, if it's made an impact on me in some way, it somehow affects the dynamic for the collective, if that makes sense. Even if it doesn't, because I've been piecing this stuff together. I just said a while back that it's like everything is kind of this big puzzle for me, and I'll get one piece of information and it shifts a whole line of stuff into place, and then I'm seeing everything differently. It's like, oh. Leave it. We're hearing somebody up the hill opening and closing car doors. So hopefully we don't start acting up, but here we are. Anyway, I feel like the connections that I am making it's not just shifting things for me. Um, and like, I mean, it makes sense that on the collective end that it's not just for me. But of course, that's not how I grew up thinking life was, that, we think we're separate from everybody, and that what we do doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And that's why a lot of people don't even make it all the way through the life they came here to lead. I don't think that's entirely accurate. I think, even in the cases of people that have committed suicide and ended it for what most of us would see as too early, it it's like those have their purpose too, because we were made aware that in some degree okay, let me flip this doofus is going down the hill and dragging me with him, all because he's trying to get a good back scratch. This is all at once. Down we go. Dude. Anyway, so like the cases, because I thought for a long time I can think of a series of decisions I've made in my life that were specifically because I had no intention of making it this far in my life. Like, it was, I felt like since I was just so awful, according to everything that the world was imposing on me, will you two knock it off? That I wasn't meant to C40. Zibby, quit. And I had no intention of making it this far. So she's eating blades of grass. Anyway, yeah, so I had no intention of making it to this point in my life. Like, when I was in high school, I couldn't see me making it to 18 to 21, any of those ages. And as I kept hitting them, it's like, what is happening? And I kept trying to give myself more reason for that to not happen. Ziva, no. So there was like a big series of decisions that I remember making that was specifically because I wanted to make sure I didn't give myself a reason to back out of following through on a suicide attempt. And obviously that did not happen. But I think of like my brother and I have both lost a couple good friends that way. And having been in the military, there's a huge population there. I think the statistic last I was looking into it was like 22 soldiers a day commit suicide. And then there's, whatever celebrities have done it along the way. And it's always something that leaves a mark for a vast number of people. And I don't think it's ever a favorable thing to do. However, I think it ends up having a role for those of us, I guess, that are still here to see how much of an impact that one person's suicide did end up having on a great deal of people. Because I think a lot of times, for me, I can speak to my own situation. I felt like there was a problem with me existing, and that somehow my being here was more detrimental than helpful, just because that was the way the world I was living in kept making me feel about the fact that I was still living in this world. And then seeing from people that have followed through and taken themselves out of this lifetime, how much of an impact it really does have an effect on the world around us. And the more I see of my life, especially now that I'm starting to put some of the pieces together, the more connected I realize everything is. And see, I'm nowhere near Tyler's grave. I've done a video before where I kind of showed his headstone while I was here. Actually, my first YouTube video that I did that was all scripted, I sat down by his headstone and was talking like, I was kind of talking about the story that I've shared a few times and will probably continue to share, just as that is a important part of my journey so far. Come here. Kitch has her leg wrapped up. But we're down the hills away. Anyway, so the other day, I was having this little, daydream of sorts, if you will. And I imagined talking to my twin flame and a couple of his friends. And I was telling them a story that was dealing with, or had to do with Tyler. So this is I'm going to try to keep this straight on which part happened in the daydream and in the actual reality, because I jump back and forth a bit, and I know. So I'm going to try to be aware of that and make it clear as I tell this story. So it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I had this little daydream where I'm talking to my twin flame and a couple of his friends and telling them about Tyler. Specifically, actual thing that happened after Tyler died he died July 19th, 2018. And in March, I think it was the last week that I was in Alabama with my ex, I had this dream that Tyler, it was kind of like what had happened, because in the 3D world, Tyler got sick and was in a coma, and Taz, we're rolling back down the hill. um, Tyler got sick and was in a coma in the hospital. And the first time I saw him, he was hooked up to all these machines and didn't get to talk to his mom, mainly. The next time, I had a friend that came up from Texas that she had been in my section in the drumline days, and she said she wanted to see him. She hadn't gotten to do that yet because she was in town, and asked if I wanted to go with her. And I said yes. So when we went the second time, actual reality, we got to talk to him. And then Paul sent out a message where Tyler had said he wanted to fight what was going on and, try to make it through it. And then shortly after that, Tyler ended up passing away. So back to Alabama. I had this dream, and in the dream, it was the same kind of scenario, except for it was in like this house, and the room he was in had purple walls, but it still had like the hospital stuff. And the first time, he wasn't communicating, he wasn't aware. The second time, got to talk to him. And then the third time, I was on my way to visit in the dream. I ran into him at I don't know if it was like at a mailbox or a sign at the end of the road for this place that he'd been in. And I knew it was going to be the last time that I saw him. And so in the dream, the actual dream, this last time I knew that I was going to see him, I kissed him. And it was just, he whispered something to me and then disappeared. And actual reality, has driven me nuts that I could never remember what he said. Okay. And I had that dream back in March 2019, the last week before I left Alabama. And it has driven me nuts ever since. I mean, I finally came to peace with it eventually, because I realized it's like, you know what, whenever it's time for me to know, I will know. That's all there is to it. But yeah, by the way, universe, I wanted to know. So I threw that out there too. So back to my little daydream a couple weeks ago. I'm telling my twin flame and his friends about this situation, right? And all at once, it just dawns on me what he said. And it was, he's coming. I was like, okay, I'm going to pause for a second and say that as soon as I said that, my phone hit 19 minutes even. And this is relevant, and I will speak to that in a moment as well. Okay, so back to the daydream. It suddenly popped into my head that what he had whispered to me was, he's coming. And I mean, it wouldn't have made sense at the time anyway. But in the daydream, I was like, wait, is that right? Because I don't know where this idea, the sudden knowing came from. I know my whole life I've spent basically hearing this inner voice say, use your voice, speak your truth, use your voice, speak your truth. And there was something about my claircognizance that has been referred to multiple times in the real world and learning to trust it. So in this daydream, I was like, wait, is that right? Is that what he said? And so I like ran over to this cabinet and just, it's like, I'm kind of feeling through like, okay, which one? I want to see Tyler's number if that was the accurate thing, right? And so I imagined that, I pulled something out of a cabinet that had the 719 on it. And of course, that was the day that he died. And that's the number that I have seen most often connected with him. And I think it was mainly because it had such an impact on me, because it was the reason I started being able to heal from a lot of the trauma and the just garbage that I carried through my life. So I imagined I saw something in this cabinet. Okay, switch to real world. My phone alerts me to something, and when I look at the notification after I've had this little thing in my head, it's the number 19 was somehow in the message that I got. And it's like, wait, there's something more going on. Okay, so I have reason to believe that 19 is also associated with my twin flame. So I can't confirm that right now, obviously, since I haven't actually spoken to this person in real world. But I very strongly believe that it's an important number for some reason in association with him as well. So I don't know if that's... Yeah, anyway. It was just the number 19 on my phone, real world, after I've had this daydream, right? I cried and laughed because it's like things are finally starting to come together. But I cried because I finally, this thing that's bothered me for so long that I didn't know, I finally was aware of what it was. So, real world, we come over to the cemetery so I can walk these little numbers. And that day, so I think this was a Sunday, that this had happened. When we were at the cemetery, we were walking around through these grassy areas because they like sniffing, and if I can burn some energy off of them by letting them use their noses, it's a lot more peaceful of an evening. So we spend a lot of time meandering through the grass so they can sniff where other animals have been and all that fun stuff. So this Sunday, after I have this knowing that Tyler said he's coming, we ended up over by Tyler's grave, and I just shook my head and thought to myself, smartass. And I swear I could hear him clear as day laughing. Like, it was like the volume was turned down on it, and obviously he wasn't physically there, but he was very much there with me. And it definitely struck a chord with me because, I've spent all this time, a lot of time, thinking about his life, his death, the connection that I was terrified of while he was alive. And now it's like I'm connecting with him while he's in the spirit world. So it was kind of a weird thing, but it gets weirder because as we continue our walk, let me just, this little number right here, Gidget, Gidget. she never used to go potty on the leash. Like, she wanted to be in the yard and do her own thing, and she just... I didn't get her well enough trained before I had to leave her for a little bit with my ex, and he didn't do anything for that. So this day, you know, she will... you're going to tie me up again. She will pee on the leash every now and then. Not like actually on the leash. Well, she would, but... but yeah, this day, the Sunday, after I walked past his grave and called him a smartass and heard his laugh clear as day with the volume turned down, then, you know, mind you, I had wanted to see his number for confirmation that that's what had been said. So as we continue on our walk, Gidge ends up pooping. So I had to bag it up. And this dog... Okay. Yes, hi. Since she pooped on the leash, I had to bag it up and drive it over to the dumpster on her way out. It was like the last thing she did, luckily. But I pull up behind the dumpster over here, and there is a truck that had just parked like within 20 seconds, I kid you not. And the people got out of the truck and were walking around some of the older tombstones. And on their license plate, there it is, 719. So, yeah. And you know, it kind of continued because the next day when we were over here for a walk, where we cut off on the app that I use to track our mileage, I shut it off at 0.719. And of course, it doesn't show you all those numbers. It had like 5 numbers, or a series of 5 numbers, and those were the first 3. But it just said like 0.72 on the app when I referred back to it later. It's like, figures. Yeah, so I mentioned at one point in one of these videos that I have this flower of life necklace that I got like really into back in January. It's like I just felt a pull to this thing and I needed to get it. Now, it's not the full image of the flower of life, and I barely even knew what it was. I knew it had something to do with the connectedness of things, but that was all I knew. And when I told, well, okay, before that, the class that I was going to, don't you start barking at anything. Annie was showing stuff regularly where she would pull something up and have the image of the flower of life behind it. It's like, I got this necklace. And then I start seeing it everywhere, and like it has continued to show up everywhere. And when I talked to Annie about it a couple weeks ago, she said that the flower of life is made up of 19 circles, I think, or something. Sorry, we gotta move down the hill because you're gonna pull me down. Just trying to sniff something. Yeah, but anyway, flower of life, 19 circles, so 19 everywhere. Yeah, so this morning, as I was waking up and doing my daydreaming time and all that stuff, I just started thinking about, oh boy, untrained circus. No. Anyway, I was thinking about like these YouTube videos and everything. It's like, you know, I think that me sitting here and taking the time to make this video and just talk to the camera, and yeah, I'll post it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't get more than like 2 or 3 views. I don't think that's the level that that what I say and do is most effective at. I think in the higher dimensional reality, it's very much doing stuff that I can't see, and I just have to trust it. And it's weird to think about it on that end. Taz, quit eating grass. Because yeah, like there's several of these things I've done where it's just, ew, yuck. You know, current ones might not even have any views, but I think that in the higher dimensions they are very much doing more than I think I can see they are. And I think that's why it's been so important that I've learned to trust myself and just speak on what I'm thinking about or whatever, as long as I put it down, whether I put it on paper or whether I record it on a video. I think putting it out there to that extent is very much doing something in the higher realms, and I just have to trust it. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, I don't think there's anything I can do with it other than when I feel like I should make a video. And I was skating the other day and was thinking about some stuff with like recycling. Because okay, I'll go ahead and tell the story. Hi. The other day when I was skating, I was thinking about, they used to have this public recycling bin at the school, and it started getting used a lot, and then all at once someone had to ruin it for us, I'm sure. All at once it disappeared, and it was so frustrating because it's like it was a public access to recycling, and we don't, for whatever reason, I have not found a lot of places that make it easy to recycle around where I'm at. Now, when I was in Alabama, I would set aside all the boxes and plastic and all that stuff, and I'd bag it up, and then we had this facility that was a few miles away, and I would go there, and you're responsible for separating your own stuff out, which to me that makes more sense because people are less likely to throw in the crap that no gidge, leave it, that isn't going to be able to be recycled. But I was just thinking, I got really frustrated because it was like we had this goodish thing kind of going, and then it disappeared. And then I mentioned it to my mom. Little bug's gonna try to make me stop my story. I mentioned it to my mom, and she's like, well, that's because people start throwing their trash in it. It's like, I see that. I can believe that. What if, okay, so what I think is happening is those of us who want to like recycle or whatever, we find an opportunity and we start making use of it because we want to help the planet, right? And don't want to live in a big garbage heap. That makes sense. Quit pulling on the leash. And then as it gains a little bit of momentum, then somebody comes along and messes the whole thing up for everybody. And maybe they did throw trash in it. But was it some asshole just throwing trash in it to make it go away so the rest of us couldn't do this thing that we wanted to help the planet? Or was it like I think there's something down there. Was it those of us who were trying to... No, we don't need to go over there. Those of us who are trying to do a good thing and trying to help the... Okay, I think the reason plastics and garbage and all this stuff are as much of an issue right now as they are is because for the powers that be that okay, there has to be resistance, right? So those of us that want to see favorable changes have to have something to work against, to push against, to be able to... Thanks, y'all. I stood up, now I can't... now I don't remember what I was saying as much. I get the stuff that's important. And I think recycling is hugely important, because if we aren't able to recycle, then where's that plastic and all the crap going, except for the landfills and places to keep the earth weighed down so the earth can't ascend into the next dimension, the higher levels of consciousness, this ascension thing. So I think, as it gains momentum and some of us start helping the planet to be able to release some of the heaviness that's keeping it from being able to get to the next levels, then others act from that place of the core wound, trying to make it more difficult for the planet to be able to ascend, and more difficult for those of us who are trying to help the planet to ascend. What is it? There's no growth without suffering. So it's like we have this stuff we have to... sorry, my nose itches. We have to confront and fight against, even though the means of the fight is not the fight that, like, governments want you to think about or anything. Like, if you can fight peacefully and get more done, that doesn't help the government in their cause of keeping everybody else squashed down and preventing them from ascending. And there's more to that. There's more to that, and this dog is distracting me enough by wanting to pull me down the hill again. I'm sorry, but you are. Anyway, final point on this. Like, on the videos in general, I think my purpose is just to speak to whatever. And if nobody finds them physically for a while, that's okay, because they are absolutely working in the higher realms. And, I've gotten some confirmation, like, I'll watch various videos and it might be a tarot reading, or it might be something that occurs to me while I'm watching a music video or something. I think that's where I've always been more actively productive. Is if I can at least see it and call attention to it in some way, even if nobody on this physical planet is going to get it for a while, it's still doing something at the higher levels. And now that I'm understanding that and seeing how it's relevant to real world scenarios, even if it's not, even if it takes some time for the 3D to catch up to what's happening in the 5D, that's all right. I think as long as I'm using my voice to put it out there, since I am aware of some of this stuff, or I see things differently than others might, I think that's where it's important. And if I do videos and tell the same stories 500 times, but with different points in it, then I think that's relevant too. I don't know. I think I'm going to be less resistant on wanting to do the videos now that I'm starting to think like this and have this awareness that there's a lot more going on than any of us are aware of down here. I feel like what I've been doing my entire life, even when I haven't realized I was doing anything, has made a difference, and that makes it worthwhile to continue. So anyway, before this dog goes lunging after whatever bird or whatever she's looking at, I'm going to end it here, and I will I guess talk to you the next time. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Till then, bye.